on the other one, you bastard!
I've had a somewhat complicated history with MechFansToys. The few figures from them that I've gotten have been mixed. Their Springer was quite fun. It was pretty simple, and there were some really thin parts that I didn't quite like. But at its core, there was experience with the design, and I can see why they took control back from Hot Soldiers in making their own designs. Then I took a look at their Pipes and Huffer, and my word, those were not good. I think one of the main reasons why I disliked them more than I probably should have is because everyone was praising them excessively. They were G1 accurate, but they weren't good. But because they were G1 accurate, everyone thought they were good. Classic story with the fandom, it's really getting on my nerves. And until the recent Kingdom announcements, everyone was using these Pipes and Huffers as their stand-ins. And only now that Hasbro's creating official ones, people are finally realizing that they were deeply disappointing figures. Hello guys, I've been saying that for years! But either way, I was somewhat skeptical about many of their releases, and they are releasing quite a few figures these days, but I was a bit hesitant to pre-order any of them. However, there is one particular figure that has renewed my faith in this company. It's probably a figure I wouldn't have gotten unless I saw him secondhand, but when I received him, oh my, what a wonderful experience. In vehicle mode, we are already off to a good start. These are a massive improvement from the previous offerings that I've looked at. It's a fairly simple little van, and you can clearly see the legs are on top of there, but there's a lot of charm to it. It's kind of got cartoon stylings, but in a reserved manner. You have big, blocky, chunky details that would come from the cartoon, but they don't make them flat and boring. The paint is minimal. You've only got a bit of gunmetal there, a bit of black on the windows, and a bit of silver over here with plastic for the red bumper. But it all works remarkably well, and unlike the previous offerings, this feels chunky as shit. Nice big chonky plastic that really doesn't feel cheap. This doesn't feel like that shitty KO plastic that the others had. And you'd think, well, it's fairly simple, well, the back would be messy. No, it actually isn't. They've got the thighs there, but you know, it's a Legends figure, what are you gonna do? And even then, they fit in remarkably well. These could have so easily turned out poorly, but they blend in expertly into the design. They just look like stripes on the back here. They don't look like thighs at all. It's a wonderful little thing. Of course, from the underside, it's clear that it's a robot lying down, but on a figure that's this cheap, it doesn't matter. This was roughly $30, but I paid $20 because I didn't get any of the accessories or the mech suit that comes with it. And I don't understand. I don't know why MechFansToys is so obsessed with the Diaclone mech suits, but apparently they're popular. More popular than the figures in most instances. Like, it's the same story with Pipes and Huffer. People bought the set and then kept the mech suits, but sold off the robots themselves. I don't understand it, but hey, I get to reap the benefits on Facebook. And comparing the two, you can really tell the difference. This design looks cluttered and all over the place, with weird proportions and clear robot parts just sticking out there. This guy is nice and dense and looks great. Even looking at the back, you can see there is a much better attention to detail here. It works remarkably well. So if you need a Gears in vehicle mode, he ticks your box. And good news, the robot mode is exactly the same, but we have to transform it first. And before we transform it, sizing. He is 7.3 centimeters long and 4 centimeters in both width and height. And for ye old size comparisons, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, a standard Earthrise Micromaster, and Crumbs. And for a bonus size comparison, here he is next to Earthrise Cliffjumper, showing that yes, he does fit into the chug scale very easily. Now, unfortunately, Kingdom Gears was allegedly cancelled, so we won't see one for a while, but it is probable that Hasbro will eventually make one. But if you absolutely can't wait, then yes, he does make a decent stand-in, and a very good figure in his own right. But having a figure stand in with the chug line wasn't what made me really like this figure. It was the transformation, to be honest. The wheels are tabbed into the side, you just want to untab them there, then you unlock this whole section here and rotate the legs down. But not content to have the backs of the legs hollow, these wheels fold right into the legs like so. The connections aren't the most solid, but the friction there does work, and it is a remarkably simple yet remarkably effective method of making this transform. This is the good shit. This is smart. This is what they should have done with Pipes and Huffer. Anyway, the arms untab from the bodies and use these hinges and ball joints to move down, and then you just collapse the torso like so. And much like the transformation was simple but effective, the robot mode is as well. There are a few little wibbly parts here and there, but for the most part, this is a truly wonderful Gears. First thing I'm really noticing is that they've gone pretty good with the paint. They kind of skimped on the vehicle mode so that the robot mode would look this good. Lovely paint on the face. Yes, it's all white and blue, but it's very clean. And the white is done quite well. It's not chalky at all. The chest is done remarkably well, and a lovely little bit of yellow there. The yellow is painted remarkably. I've had a string of poorly painted yellow lately, so it's nice to see this. It's a nice change of pace. And proportionally, yeah, it's G1 and wonky, but that's part of his charm. The head is on the front of the truck here, so you do get this entire part at the back here that moves with the head, but it's fine. The face has some lovely depth to it, and it's charming in its own right. I mean, I could complain about how the fists are giant and it has all this kibble on the back here, but but come on. It's a Legends figure, and a really cheap one at that. And with cheap Legends figures, the main thing that I'm concerned with is the build quality and the articulation, and it has delivered in both. For example, it's got a nice head swivel, hinges and ball joints at the shoulders, bicep swivel surprisingly, and an elbow joint. So they didn't skimp there. No waist swivel, sadly. I feel they could have engineered one into the transformation without sacrificing anything, but it is a cheap figure. They've kept the cost down, but not in a stupid way. That's like the only sacrifice they've made for the price. And everything else works. You've got ball jointed hips, thigh swivels, they're a little bit tight for my liking, but they get the job done. And a knee. Yeah, the knee doesn't go that far, but he does have them. And hey, if you really want to get a bigger knee, you can untab these and then rotate it down, although that looks pretty bad. The primary thing this figure delivers is the fun factor. They could have so easily skimped on so many qualities here, but they didn't. This is what I was expecting from MechFansToys, and the fact that it delivered and then some is quite commendable. This is essentially what they wanted to do with Pipes and Huffer, but failed miserably. You can just see the difference in design philosophy, the much better sculpted head in comparison, the wonky proportions in comparison to these nice and chunky ones, the transformation between the two. It is chalk and cheese. Awesome and frustrating. This is what I want to see from MechFansToys going forward. And considering some of the figures that coincidentally showed up just the day before I started filming this, well, I think the future is in good hands. We just had a minor hiccup that we should quickly forget about. Anyway, finishing things off, here's roughly 5.5 centimeters by 10 centimeters. And of course, for size comparisons, here's a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, a standard Earthrise Micromaster, and Crumbs. And he's a little bit smaller than your small deluxes, but he should fit right in if you so desire, as well as with standard Legends figures from Thrilling 30 to Power of the Primes. So if you absolutely need a Gears in your collection now, he will work as a stand-in. It works perfectly fine. But for me, I just like collecting Legends figures, and he is a pretty decent Legends figure. Not the best thing in the world due to his budget being a little bit smaller than certain other figures, but still pretty fun for what I paid. Given the somewhat simplistic design with this could have so easily turned out poorly. However, it is clear that they have learned many things from the failures of Pipes and Huffer. Everything that Pipes and Huffer did wrong, Gears does right. Better build quality, better articulation, hollowness filled in with simple but smart panel usage, and wonderful proportions and a wonderful sculpt that helps accentuate such. He's a bit too simple to be getting a perfect score, but he is a very fun figure. And if you need a Gears in your collection, I highly recommend him. Yes, Magic Square and New Age might do better ones in the future, and yes, Iron Factory might do a much better stylized one eventually, but for now, he is pretty fun. He is an easy recommend, and if you can get him on the cheap, which is fairly likely considering he is cheap to begin with, yeah, go for him. He's fun. And he's not the only figure this year that has restored my faith in a company that I was somewhat losing it in. But with tomorrow's episode, which will conclude the smaller mini reviews, I don't think there has been any better example.